All right. Good morning, YouTube. How you doing? It's Max today, and I'm here making a video because I saw this video the other day about Jimmy making a RuneScape is not nostalgic. That's not why we play a RuneScape kind of game. And then a few days later, something pops up on my feed, and it's Asmongold reacting to Jimmy, saying that RuneScape is all about people who play RuneScape. It's all about the nostalgia, mostly nostalgia. And now I've seen this video by Nine Rain, and I think this is really funny that he's making a reaction to Asmongold reacting to Jimmy, and I think Jimmy's original video was reacting to Asmongold. So it's just become this circular thing. So I was like, me, I've been making some videos lately. Why not just make a cheeky little video? I see that this is um like a 2 hour video. I don't know if I'm gonna do this whole thing, but I just thought it would be funny for the memes. And yeah, so I guess I'll just get right into it. Um, I've never done a reaction video before, so let's see what goes on.
Okay, what's up, guys? So Jimmy made a video about MMOs, and then Asmongold reacted to that video, and then Jimmy reacted to Asmongold's reaction to that video, and then as a response to further that line of thinking, Jimmy made another video which Asmongold reacted to, again, specifically about nostalgia, and then Jimmy reacted once more to that reaction of the video that was a reaction of
I'm already confused.
all the videos in consecutive order are just going to be linked in the description. So if you have the context, welcome. If you don't have the context, that's okay. Welcome. I'm going to watch Jimmy's video and react to the reaction of the, I think you get it at this point. If we come down to Jimmy's latest reaction video, we have Bro, This Is Unhinged. And then we have Nine Rain has the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever with reacting to this. Of course, there's I think he means by reacting to this. So Jimmy gives us a little intro that just basically says he doesn't mind Asmongold reacting to his stuff, and then mentions how this is all in good fun, which, welcome. Hello, this is all in good fun. So I guess we'll just get to it.
I just also want to mention that this is all in good fun. I might have some takes here and there, but I think that this is just kind of a funny opportunity. So yeah.
Let's watch a video where he says a lot of stupid shit that I'm gonna disagree with and win the argument about. RuneScape doesn't need nostalgia, I say. Old school RuneScape is off.
I just realized. So I was just covering Asmongold. I guess he's moved to
Compared with the
Asmongold.
word
So let's make
nostalgia.
sure.
By the way, first
Oh, sorry.
3 seconds in, I already got my first pause. Asmon, if you're ever watching my
I've just realized I'm like in front of Jimmy. Okay, I think this is going
I
to be
literally
more
just
difficult
said
than
the
I
same
thought, but
thing.
We'll probably go right above Jimmy right here.
videos.
Let's just
Bottom
move
left.
myself
The game currently
up here.
stands in its 11th
Look at this.
year of existence and takes place
Can't
in
even
the
see
top
my face.
3 most played MMORPGs.
Yeah, we'll just do it
And
like
I have
that.
to say
Yeah.
that nostalgia has not been a driving force to get old school to where it is right now. In fact, I would argue that nostalgia has never been a true contributor to old school success. It's not the
Yeah, no, I actually agree with that.
I'm just gonna cut him off because I was about to pause the camera. I just wanted to take notes. So let's see. Jimmy, nostalgia has never been a contributor to OSRS success. I think that's what he said. So I just want to write that down because I think that was the main point. Let's hear what Nine Rain has to say.
People give me the nostalgia thing all the time, and I just don't think that's true. I mean, it might make the game more fun for you, but I played the game back since Classic all the way up until like 2006, 2007, whenever they ruined the game. And then I quit, and I didn't come back till like 2018. And when I started playing again, the game was so different even by then. And more than that, the things that I was doing were so different, and the community was so different, and the way that you play through the game, and the fact that there was Iron Man and all that stuff. Nothing that I did was nostalgic. But like I used to merch, and you'd stand in Falador and type and stuff, and
I feel like this is gonna be really weird, pausing a lot. So I do agree with what Nine Rain's saying, where he's saying that a majority of his fun doesn't come. Let's put that down. Nine Rain, and maybe I'm misquoting, but my impression of what he's saying is that his experience is not nostalgic, and he's been playing since Classic. So we've got Jimmy saying has never been a contributor to OSRS success. Nine Rain saying that his experience is not nostalgic. He's been playing since Classic. I am saying, this is me throwing my hat in the ring, I'm saying that nostalgia is a hook. It's like a hook for, getting into the game. But if nostalgia can't keep someone alone. It's not the driving factor for player retention. So I think that, nostalgia is a factor, it's a hook. It's like, but it's not the driving factor for player retention. If I was going to just play a game off of nostalgia alone, I'd probably play it for a week and be like, okay, that was fun, and then I would move on and do something else. But so those are the 3 points I'm picking up right now.
So none of it's nostalgic to me. The music does make me feel nostalgic, though. So I think that's just a truth about music in general.
The reason any of us are here. See, recently I made this.
I'm gonna have my camera placed probably over his chat for most of the video, but for this part, I want you to see. This is what we're dealing with here, all right? All these probably WoW players who were disappointed.
I have to move my camera again.
Their release of WoW Classic, who didn't get to experience what we experienced. I feel so sorry for them.
Okay, I've never played WoW, so if you're a WoW player, hello and welcome to the video. I've heard great things about all of you. I have really high expectations for how you might take this. But if I'm being honest,
I also feel like I should preface I have not played WoW. I might have played like once in like 2005, but it was like $15 a month, so I didn't actually play it. One of the games that I'm kind of I'm sorry, I'm like kind of going off. I guess that's why I'm making this video to speak my opinions. But when I think of like a game that's like kind of nostalgic, that I play every now and then, it would probably be something like Pokemon, where like I played Pokemon as a kid, and when I hear this a lot in the Pokemon community, where like the old games, like the pre-Switch games, are kind of like they're the nostalgic variants. So I don't know exactly where I'm going with. I feel like that's what I feel when I think of Pokemon and the Pokemon community. That's nostalgia. With old school RuneScape, from an outsider's point of view, I definitely see that perspective as well. But like, I think when you play RuneScape for like when I was playing RuneScape, it's a completely different thought. Like even Pokemon is a completely different thought. Like I think that's like the hook, but I don't think that it's like what keeps you there. So with Pokemon when I was a kid, I didn't play with like the EVs or the IVs or there's so much depth to Pokemon. And I feel like RuneScape is very similar where there's so much depth that like, you know, it's a completely new experience, a completely new game. I don't know if that's what they're talking about, but I just wanted to chime in because this is a reaction video.
you're not worse than RuneScape players. We're probably worse. Maybe.
Chat was hard to watch, I'll be honest. This chat was egging him on with a lot of stupid shit. I got a quarrel with these people. Type in that shit.
OSRS came up a few times. And not to pump my own tires or anything, but I think it was a pretty good video. However, what I think about it doesn't matter because one of you people decided to send it over for a peer review. Which, first of all, you were supposed to send this one. I wanted that to be reviewed.
Look, I'll do that eventually.
Well, you better still not watch this video.
Motherfucker,
it's 40 minutes.
But it's
Yeah.
fine.
Are we even
40
talking
minutes.
about anything?
It's nothing to you.
Actually, and this video that I'm reviewing is an hour and 6 minutes, and I think every time it's just going to keep getting longer. So this chain better stop at some point. Things are going to get out
it's
of
gonna
hand
keep
for sure.
going.
There's like 3 Jimmys, 2 Asmongolds, and a 9 Rain on screen right now, and I don't actually know what
And
to
one
make of it.
Max.
There's also a guy with his ass out right behind my head.
Fucking watch it. What are you just scrolling through Reddit? Open the damn video. Fucking watch it.
I'll watch it at some point.
Yeah,
Peer
some
review.
point.
That way I
Right.
get the last word in,
Okay.
so I win arguments by default.
Look at this grad. This is terrible.
It's just beautiful.
Look at how good the motion capture is and how photorealistic.
I don't know what
Baldur's
they're
Gate
talking
3
about right
facial
now. I feel like
capture
this
is.
has
Doesn't
nothing to
matter
do.
for
This
an
is
MMO.
just
Plays such
filler.
a massive role in what
I don't think I disagree with that.
What is there to disagree with?
it doesn't matter for an MMO. Why not?
Wait for it.
The game is popular.
WoW doesn't even, when they're giving you a quest for the Alliance, he says, as he just said
I'm so
a
lost.
novel of things to you. And I don't even think his mouth moves when he says for the Alliance.
Anyway,
So
Is anybody else lost?
exactly.
Is anybody else? I was fully prepared to react to this, but I actually don't know how many
I
layers.
feel like I need to
deep we are
skip
at this
ahead.
point.
I'm gonna skip
I
ahead
think
because I
this
don't know
is
what's
the
going
first.
nostalgia,
on. Okay,
No, that's true. I actually think that that's
Wait.
probably true.
let's go back a little bit.
Main reason.
and that must have been the tip of the iceberg.
He's
for
not
me,
happy
because
about
I
that.
opened a Word document, and here we are.
I don't know. I think
Okay.
the charm of RuneScape is how shitty it looks, and that's like half of the fun.
I feel like I just
And the
messed
fact,
up by
WoW
skipping
players
ahead.
should know this better than anybody. WoW is cartoonish, and like
So they're talking about
that's
graphics.
one of the reasons it holds up is it's not attempting to be something else. Do I think RuneScape is a great looking game? No, not really. It does look stupid, but that's why we like it.
Yeah, I mean, there's old style video games nowadays. I think they even probably bring this up, but like, I think Jimmy said something about Octopath Traveler 2 being like a new game that has old graphics. I don't think graphics really, plays a big factor.
That's actually why we like it.
That's the main reason.
And that must have been the tip of
Maybe
the
it
iceberg.
does. I
He's
don't
not
know.
happy
I don't
about
know what the
that.
context of that was.
And, here we are. As
Uh-oh.
someone who has 2 different old school RuneScape series that can be linked directly to nostalgia, I'm here to set it straight. When I say this, I'm not just talking about MMORPGs. Old school RuneScape is one of the greatest video games ever made. Nostalgia.
Facts.
No, that's true. I actually think that that's probably true. Do I think that that's true? I think one of the things that makes it so good is that it's shitty. And by that I mean like Dark Souls or something. Like the game's always, the amount of times that I've been playing RuneScape and I'm just like, what the fuck?
See, what I think of RuneScape being one of the best games, I think we live in a world where there's so much kind of flair. Like there's so many like pixels and or not yeah, pixels and like animations. Like you shoot something, there's like explosions and the graphics are crisp. There is a lot of like instant gratification, and there's like this is a whole thing with like social media and loot boxes, microtransactions, all that stuff. And I think what old school RuneScape kind of does is it brings this kind of sense of achievement to what you do, and it's in a way where I can't think of like another game that quite does it like RuneScape. Old school RuneScape, like when he's talking about Dark Souls, there's a sense of achievement um, from a level where it takes maybe it's like one story or something, and it might take you like 100 hours and a lot of attempts to try and beat. But what RuneScape does that I feel like no other game does is it kind of blends all these different genres together. Like, what makes a survival craft really fun, in my opinion, like Stardew Valley, I feel like was like one of the pioneers of launching the survival craft genre, even though it's not really a survival. Maybe Minecraft also. But yeah, like Minecraft and Stardew Valley, Minecraft was probably the pioneer. Is you collect resources and then you craft them into things that you use. And I feel like that's kind of what RuneScape is. But Minecraft and Stardew Valley's leveling system is very kind of bare bones. You go up to like level 10 in Stardew Valley, and in Minecraft, you just get this like generalized experience for like crafting potions or something. But like RuneScape's whole skill system, I've never seen it that fleshed out in any other game, and except for RuneScape 3. But I think what Jimmy's about to say is that they took RuneScape 3 into this direction that you know people didn't want it to go that way, and they wanted it to, because that kind of removed this sense of achievement with skills. And so old school RuneScape, in my opinion, is the only game that really has a true sense of like achievement with like a skills system. I don't know if that's what he's talking about. I just heard him talking about Dark Souls or something. And yeah, this is funny.
Is wrong with the people who made this game. why do I have to suffer through this to get the things that I want? But it's precisely the act of suffering through things
Yeah.
to get the things that you want that gives you that sense of accomplishment when you finally
Yes.
did them. And
It's
in
like
some
detox,
sense, the suckier the thing you
in
had
a
to
way.
get through to get the thing that you want, the better the feeling as you move towards your goal. So I think I actually
It's like work is not necessarily bad. Like that, I think that's like a misconception about RuneScape is that like people see the grind as work, and maybe it is work, but there's nothing like negative about work. If anything, work is like good and makes you feel accomplished. At the end of the day, if you're going out and you have like a good, successful, non-stressful day at work, that's like, you know, way better than having a chill, boring day, and also better than having like this stressful kind of like chaotic day. Like having like a nice day where you're busy, you're working, you know what you're doing, you're checking off check boxes, you're completing goals, and you still have the mental energy to do anything else. I think that's what embodies RuneScape. And having these kinds of negative preconceptions about work going into the game makes you not enjoy it. If that makes any sense. But I think that's what Nine Rain's kind of getting at.
actually think that RuneScape might be up there like top 10 greatest games of all time.
Has not done the legwork to get it there. But I'm not in the mood to talk about it because I'm hungry, and my personal
this is an
chef
ad.
is going to make me not hungry
I'm
anymore.
not even going to show the
Nice.
chat
Give me a
Oh, I
second,
see.
please.
because they suck.
Hello, I'm not the same guy. I'm a chef. When Jimmy hired
Who
I just feel like skipping some of this because it's already like super long, so we'll skip the ad.
along
not a
with his
sponsor.
two other brothers, did create old school RuneScape, and this is his personal, basically retirement passion project. And you could definitely tell that
A retirement passion project? Damn, Jimmy. You're putting Andrew in that category already? I mean, maybe this is his like farewell. What do they call that? What's it called when a composer writes their last song?
I think it's a
Whatever,
swan
you
song.
know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
there are RuneScape 3 looking aesthetics here, but honestly, that's about it for comparison.
Maybe it's a fun game. I don't know. I'm gonna try Brighter Shores, but I do think it's kind of a false comparison. But that's fine.
This
Yeah, I agree with Nine Rain right here. I don't even know what the argument is, but I feel like bringing, if I remember correctly, there was this thing that Asmongold maybe had brought up that I mean, don't quote me on this, I don't know. But I remember from like a past video the other day that it was like if Brighter Shores does something, then that will prove that it's nostalgia. And I feel like this is a non sequitur argument. So I don't see what Brighter Shores. I see where they're coming from, where it's the same creator, and people will probably flock to this game and try it out for, you know, I don't know how much time. Maybe they'll stay with it. Maybe they'll play it out, try it, and move on to something else. And maybe that initial, like I said, I think that hook is nostalgia. But if the game succeeds, Brighter Shores that is, then then it's a good game. If it doesn't succeed, then people don't really, they won't stick with it. I don't think that nostalgia alone has anything to do with player retention. You have to enjoy the gameplay, in my opinion, to some degree, in order for it's not the only factor.
this is not going to be another RuneScape. It's going to be not really much like it at all. In my comments section of my MMO video, the hearted comment at the top was mentioning Brighter Shores, and I had not included it in the final draft of the video. I was being very harsh on Brighter Shores, so I didn't want to include it because I felt kind of rude, because I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. Since it was a discussion about the future of MMOs, like what the next big thing was, I was going to be making the point in there that Brighter Shores is not that thing. Brighter Shores will have a little bit of success. A lot of RuneScape players are going to try it out. A handful of them might stay there. I really don't see this being like a big mass appeal game. I truly do think this is just that performs later on as
I'm just skipping ahead because it's like 3 minutes of talking about Brighter Shores, and I feel like this has nothing to do with nostalgia.
A supportive argument because of how different this game is going to be. There's going to be no connection between
Yeah,
this game
like
and old school RuneScape. I really
it's just
wouldn't
the
look at
same
Brighter
person who
Shores
made
as
it.
any sort of comparison here.
Now, obviously, it's not the same game, so it's like, it's hard to really compare. But the reason why people asked for old school RuneScape is fundamentally nostalgia. It's in the name. That's the reason.
You know, I think that's a fair point. If old school RuneScape
Yeah, I mean, I do think that like nostalgia, like I said, I keep bringing this back. I think what Asmongold's saying is that people wouldn't play RuneScape if they didn't have prior experience with it. And so that's what I mean here by nostalgia is the hook. But I think that's kind of the end of his argument where he kind of drops the mic, if I recall correctly, where it's just nostalgia was what got people into it. That's my argument. I think that it neglects this part where like it's not if people only liked it because of nostalgia, it wouldn't keep player retention. And I think what Jimmy is about to do to counter this is bring up a bunch of graphs, if I recall, and he's going to talk about all these counterpoints to Asmongold's reaction, which I don't know if this was. I think this was in the original video too, and so I think that's what Jimmy was frustrated about upon this reaction video. I guess we'll see what Nine Rain is saying. He said something about Asmongold being correct. I think I'm just going to listen to what he has to say now.
it was released today, I don't think anyone would play it if it didn't have a history. I think that's actually a good point. I don't think anyone would play it, but I also think that that's probably true for like most things, not even just.
Okay, so Nine Rain is saying he agrees that if RuneScape, well, I think maybe Asmongold also made this argument, but if RuneScape was released today, no one would play it. I feel like that's hard to know, but in my opinion, I think that there is a market for all sorts of games, and I feel like maybe this what I feel about RuneScape is that it does slot itself into this unique kind of MMORPG that is very difficult, very grindy, and I think that there is a lot of people who enjoy those kinds of games. I think that it would really depend a lot on marketing, maybe. Probably wouldn't be a mainstream game. I think that's for sure. I don't even know if it currently is. Like, I feel like it's kind of like almost a cult classic, RuneScape. Um, so I don't think that maybe it wouldn't be as popular as it is today if it was just a fresh game. But I definitely think that there's like a market for RuneScape without the nostalgia factor.
Games like if they released mail today and they were just like, look, you could send letters to people, it'd be crazy. I don't think anyone would download mail on Steam. So like the time that something
There's
came
always
out is
pushback.
relevant, I guess, to whether or not people like it and use it. So I think I agree with Asmon that if he's saying that if he released it today no one would play it, he's right. True. I don't think that means that people are necessarily playing it because of nostalgia. And really the whole argument with, hey, you play RuneScape primarily for nostalgia is insinuating that it doesn't like have the gameplay or other reasons to back it up. And I'm not sure that that's true.
He says it's in the name.
Old school RuneScape is often paired with the word nostalgia, which is understandable. It's in the name.
It is in the name.
Old school RuneScape. The game currently.
It's the first thing I said. You can't use that as an argument.
But if you contradicted yourself in the video, maybe he could. I mean, it is in the name. We've all said it now.
Asmon, I already acknowledged that. That's a counterpoint that
I think that this whole nitpick about old school being in the name is kind of missing the meat of the argument. Like I feel like Jimmy's well, this has never been a contributing factor to OSRS's success. I feel like Jimmy's core argument isn't really I mean, I guess this is it, but I guess how I interpreted his argument was like something along the lines of like people demonize. I mean, add a new one because I don't want to say that Jimmy said this. Max's my impression of Jimmy. I think that Jimmy's core argument is that people demonize. I don't know if demonize is the best word. Um, People who play RuneScape by saying that they only play because of a nostalgic factor. I don't know if this is exactly how like the best wording for it. I might have to take some time, but I think that like this is Jimmy's core point is that there are people, and I've experienced this too, where they're like, oh, that's that old game that like you probably only play for nostalgia reasons. And I feel like, people who play Pokemon to this day might still get this kind of, you know, response to them. Um, and I guess we'll keep watching, but I think that's really Jimmy's point. I feel like this whole semantics about, old school being in the name, at least from my perspective, I concede that like nostalgia is a factor. Maybe Jimmy doesn't think that nostalgia is any factor at all. But I think what he means to say, he's doubling down on that. What he means to say is that it's not the only factor.
I've acknowledged immediately.
Fair enough.
That's a good ad.
That's actually a good move by Jimmy. Well played, Jimmy.
That's a very good ad.
For life. People are gonna think you got Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Hey.
Use that code.
Can we just skip to an
This
ad?
one's good. Wait till the Starforge ad. I will be doing a Starforge ad.
Nostalgia in the video game world
Yes.
has become very messy because nowadays it's pretty common to weaponize nostalgia into this market.
Yeah, see, maybe I'll change this. People weaponize the word nostalgia. That's what he's saying. People weaponize nostalgia. Maybe I'll move this up here. Okay, we'll keep. But I just wanted to point out that he said weaponize nostalgia. I knew it was something along those lines.
Marketing tactic.
We weaponize nostalgia. Wait a minute, guys. First of all, that is the most buzzword thing I've heard Jimmy say all video. And we're going to go ahead and get this out of the way. What the fuck is a sentimental longing or wistful affection for the past, typically for a period or place with happy personal associations? What do they mean by sentimental? Oh no. They put nostalgia in the definition of sentimental. I guess we'll never know.
Man, this is just
It's a little party trick they pull to make a quick buck at the expense of us remembering what it was like when our life was.
It used to be good. Yeah, I remember how it used to be. Back in my day, I used to be on vent.
Simple and,
Yep.
and happy. Very
Yeah, so there's definitely people who I've, seen that are like, they come into RuneScape and they're like, man, yeah, I remember when we didn't have the great grand exchange. Like that's when, that was, back in my day. These things that Asmongold's saying, I think is very, I don't even know what he's saying, but I see his point where he's coming from, where like, I don't even know. I lost my train of thought. Let's just go back to the video.
kind of them. Most recently, you can look at the Star Wars Battlefront collection.
Wait a minute. Is Trump's Make America Great Again just a bid for
Oh
nostalgia?
no, we're
Wait a
getting
minute.
political.
It's a nostalgic marketing tactic to evoke sentimental feelings of the past. No. By the way, I just watched the debate yesterday, and we're not going to go there because I don't think we have to. For the first time in maybe my life, pretty much the entire American population agrees on something. We're fucked. It looks bad. It looks really bad. So and we're moving on.
Well,
Ooh, that was
Classic
bad.
collection. When that thing was first announced, I thought I was going insane, seeing all the positivity surround
with your
the
dollar.
announcement of that, because everyone's just going bananas for this big release of the classic collection.
I can't imagine because so remember whenever I think it was Bluehole, whenever they made the remake of Demon Souls.
My twin was an art lead and a concept artist on that game, and like a lot of the shit that you'll see in that game, my twin helped make it, and a lot of
It's
my
pretty
friends too,
cool.
actually. So if you guys remember from the Grador video when I did the I sold the disc plate with 90.
I feel like we're getting off topic.
I said my
but
twin drew it.
this is
That's
very
why it
cool.
was so good when he painted it. That's why it was so good, because he's a professional and he worked on it.
Situation like old school RuneScape, it's not really the case of releasing something once and then forgetting about it just to make money for a second. Jagex really didn't want to do this whole old school idea, coming up with basically every excuse in the book not to do it. I'm sure most of you have seen the
Yes, I'm
famous
familiar
clip
with that.
of, you know, you think you do, but you don't.
Yeah.
Vanilla WoW received
Man.
when asked the question. Didn't exactly
That
age
guy.
that well, but honestly.
So this is actually interesting. There was a comment on my main video that made actually a really good point and said, actually, because I said that didn't age well, but they said it actually did age well because of how Blizzard handled that. Because when they did release Classic, they were still set on the fact that players were looking for nostalgia. They were wanting to feel nostalgia, which is not what players wanted. That's not what they were asking for. They were asking the same thing that old school was, and said, we liked the game a lot more back then. The game was just fundamentally better back then. That's what old school RuneScape players wanted. I wish I would have articulated this more when I was making the video and writing the script, but obviously a lot of this stuff, my comment section and just feedback I get on it will put the ideas in my head like, man, like I wish I would have worded that that same way, you know. So it's hard to, you know, get everything said that I want to say when I'm making the video, but that was a really good point, that it actually did age well. The devs said you think you do but you don't, because they never got the whole nostalgia thing out. It's the reason that they have that middle server that is going with the expansions. It's like repeating nostalgia bait, and that's all they're doing.
Nine about to say something, but I feel like this is something that what they're doing is they're talking about this whole thing where I guess Blizzard kind of had some pushback about releasing old school servers for World of Warcraft. And I think this is a time where RuneScape did it before World of Warcraft, if I understand correctly. And then World of Warcraft fans tried to do what RuneScape was doing. And then developers were saying something about no, and I don't really know the full history of this, but I feel like this has nothing to do with RuneScape nostalgia. This is just like a tangent. It's loosely related to, but I don't think that, you know, this has really any bearings on the argument, but I think it is something that's inevitably going to come up.
Okay, so I actually think Jimmy's kind of making a decent point here. I think the point here is that what gamers are trying to say is like, hey, you made a good game and then you screwed it up along the way. Can we just get the good game back? Whenever RuneScape announces a new update for OSRS, people freak out and they get really attached to whether or not the game is getting easier or harder. And I understand protecting the integrity of the game, but easier and harder are relative and don't really matter in the end of things. As far as I'm concerned, what you should be striving for is a play experience and game design that's consistent and coherent throughout the entire game, that is fun, difficult, rewarding, sometimes easy, sometimes monotonous, sometimes really involved, sometimes some AFK, and all this talk about nostalgia or not nostalgia, new versus old, I don't think it really matters. It's like if you make a good game and it's fun to play, nobody cares. People don't care.
Yeah, I think that's the core of this thing, and Nine Rain's hitting it. So, like, if you make a good game, make a good game. Nostalgia doesn't really matter, and I think that's kind of like the crux of, or the, I don't know, the crux, the whole point that we're trying to get to here.
When a new game comes out, they're not like, this is nostalgic, we wanted nostalgia. It just make a good game. And what's good? I don't know. Do people like playing it? And are they going to play it again?
The only thing that really came out of classic WoW that was different, that saw a crazy amount of success, was hardcore, classic hardcore. From the original, like the 2006 version of the game, which is, some people try to correct me on it. It was like, oh, it's 2004. That was when classic WoW came out. The classic WoW that we can play is 2006. It's a 2006 backup of the game. When they introduced a hardcore mode, the official one, not the plugin, the OnlyFans stuff was happening, and WoW had a crazy big burst of views, and watched a bunch of big creators take part in a hardcore WoW account. The raids happening. It was amazing. They should have done that years ago. They just didn't capitalize on it. I still don't think, to this day, that Blizzard realizes that that was not because of nostalgia that succeeded as well as it did. The reason
I think we're getting into Jimmy's doing kind of some evidence of RuneScape being a good game that's new, that's not tied to nostalgia. Like, I remember he talks about all these different game modes that RuneScape has, like the hardcore. And I think he also wants to acknowledge that RuneScape had these ideas before World of Warcraft. So it kind of feels like we're kind of entering into this new phase of like there's kind of this like war between is RuneScape, not only is RuneScape is nostalgia a contributor of RuneScape's success, but now we're talking about, did RuneScape's success that's not rooted in nostalgia have some validity because it came before World of Warcraft? Is it my understanding of what's going on right now?
that they saw such a crazy boom of subs is not because people felt nostalgia playing a hardcore account. Nobody played a hardcore account before this. No one was playing hardcore accounts in 2006. WoW. Nobody. That would have been the stupidest idea you could possibly give to anybody in 2006. When they tried something like that, and you see how much creators can do with something like that, especially with creators as big of communities as they have, like Soda Pop, and building that entire guild from the ground up, getting a bunch of creators that normally don't even play WoW to try it. How much more proof do you need that just using 2006 WoW and innovating different systems, integrating different systems, can help the game out? They just didn't capitalize on it. Obviously, I'm not a WoW expert here. I can't really give suggestions that probably would be immediately countered. There just hasn't been attempts to play around with that classic WoW system and a game engine. They're doing all this shit with like the expansions, like the Miss of Pandaria stuff, which I tried, and as somebody who did not experience Miss of Pandaria at first, I was playing it as a newer player and was like, why the fuck am I doing this? What does this do for me? Like, I don't like this. Like, this isn't that fun. I mean, it's
I think we're getting off topic.
leveling a WoW character a little faster again. Like, what is this? It was their take on the leagues, maybe? I don't know. Whatever.
I might be missing
Relying
some
on like
stuff,
mount
but
services from one city to the next. I've actually never felt immersed in a game like I did when I played WoW that one time, and it didn't really stick with me. I didn't play super long, but I'm constantly baffled by the fact that they haven't done even the basic innovations and just stolen the game modes.
Going on a tangent,
I'm just skipping ahead because I feel like this is going to be long enough.
but yeah.
Jagex did the exact same thing. They just didn't do it during a live streamed event. Not only was there a petition that content creators rallied communities to go and sign, there was also a private server
This
that had
was
about
before my time.
390,000 registered accounts.
So this was actually after my time, but also before my time, because I quit when they ruined the game, and then, but I wasn't here for any of this. I heard about it though.
Jagex
Jesus.
shut down. And if
Of
none
course.
of those things happened,
That's actually kind of crazy that the exact same thing happened for WoW. I didn't know the history of this. This is really interesting.
But RuneScape came
Because,
first,
yes,
I believe.
this exact thing happened for WoW. What the fuck? It's like an alternate reality.
No, it's the same reality. We did it 6 years before WoW did, and WoW players were like, well, if they can do it, why can't we?
I wonder if there will be another game that does this in a couple of years. There's gonna be another game that does this.
Look how much success they're having. And then they did it. It's just that
I mean,
Blizzard
even in
didn't do the
movies
right
and TV
things.
shows, there's been so
There's still
much.
a chance. It's not too late.
Like in movies and TV shows, they've been remaking a bunch of stuff for this like nostalgia hook. Like I feel like that's just kind of like the era we kind of have been living in for a while, where there's if you were to pump out something that's kind of new, it's harder to get people's attention. But if you were to do like a remake of a previous IP, then people are at least gonna like check it out and like take a look at it. So maybe that's what Asmongold's saying, is something along the lines of like literally anything that's new that comes out, has to have a pre-existing IP. I don't know. But that is kind of like a valid point, but I think that's more of a critique on our culture modern day rather than this particular game, because if you apply that logic to like everything else, then Lion King, anything Disney, Star Wars. I think they're remaking Harry Potter. I think they're remaking Hunger Games right now. Like there's so many things that I guess would fall into that argument.
It's not too
Have
late.
gotten the poll from Jagex themselves, just to be sure that we really wanted it. Jagex knew that nostalgia is a short-term feeling. You don't just constantly feel nostalgia.
This is the hook.
It's this thing that hits
Nostalgia
you.
is a hook.
It might stay with you for
Like
a
a
little bit.
smell.
Players wanting to feel nostalgia
Like a
was
smell.
not enough to justify putting a bunch
Yeah.
of resources into what
What this shot? What the fuck? How does he have a shot of RuneScape? What the hell is this shot? This is crazy.
It's a nice
what am I
shot.
looking at? Oh my god. That how big fucking Meyer Ditch is and Mauritania compared to the desert and the duel arena? Wait, is this composited or this is the craziest shot I've ever seen in my life. Despite, regardless of the fact that there's 2 Jimmys, an Asmongold, and a 9-ring, this is actually insane. I must message Jimmy and find out. Is that the dock at the very south end of Mauritania, way in the top right of the corner? There's a little dock there. Can you fish sharks over there? Am I thinking of a different spot? Wait a minute, dude. Is that our Doin? In fact, actually, don't watch the whole thing. Just go watch the Grardor series and then go watch the whole thing, because then you'll be like, you get like a little taste of it.
Fascinating of how we did get here, but I have a video called RuneScape, the MMO split in half, and it's a very
I think this is more
crazy
history
ride
stuff.
that,
I'm gonna throw up the Grardor video.
I'm just gonna
right
skip
here on
ahead because
top
we're
of
already like 40
Jimmy's
minutes
video.
in.
So here it is.
We'll see if there's
Incidental,
anything
because they had like an old server saved for God knows what reason on like a little disk drive, a floppy disk in a
More
dusty
history, I
corner of a broom closet again.
something that players didn't recognize anymore. Have you ever been playing a sandbox
Yeah.
game? You're about 20 hours into it. Things started.
Oh yeah, I
becoming
remember
more
this being a
how
good
is this-
point.
Fucking bad. Oh, well, not this. I love Civ.
a few seconds earlier, Mod MMG
We'll see when we get there. But I remember
saying
Jimmy
that
had a good
they've been
point here.
looking through old IT guys' desks for flash drives of backups of the game.
Told you.
This was a backup that they found, and that's what Old School became. Is they found this little backup of the game.
It was a floppy disk.
That's what it is.
Because of that,
resentment towards the decisions that Jagex was making, turning the game into something that players didn't recognize anymore.
Oh,
Have
God.
you ever been
It looks so fucking bad. Oh, well, not this. I love Civ. This looks so shit.
not getting
I
to the
hate
point.
Forest
Jagex
3.
was making, turning the game into
I hate everything about this. This looks so bad. The animations, it's fucking terrible. It's soulless. Ugh. I hate it. It's so hard to read, too. The readability is just totally gone from the game.
something that players didn't recognize anymore. Have you ever been playing a sandbox
Yeah,
game?
this
You're
part.
about 20 hours into it. Things started becoming more complicated.
how is this not nostalgia?
You're micromanaging things. You're kind of just really missing that early game. It's just a very congested feeling you're getting.
What is the definition of nostalgia?
Oh,
This was silly.
Oh, he's gonna
you're
look it up
welcome,
too.
guys. I've already done this for us, but here you go.
Sentimental longing or wishful affection for the past. So let me get this straight.
Yeah, the sentimental
wishing for
the sentimental part is what he missed here. There was not a lot of sentimental
This isn't the
feelings
part that I
for
was
what we
thinking
were
of.
asking for yet. But no matter what you tell me, you cannot say you have nostalgia for something that was
I think
a
it's
year
coming
ago.
up though.
No, but they had this. What didn't it re-release? in,
Like, I
like,
think we're just getting into semantics
2014?
right
Am I
now.
crazy? That was
Like,
7 years, Jimmy.
we
Come
already
on, come
talked
on,
about the
not 1
meat.
year.
Of the argument, this isn't
It's
really
not
the meat.
it.
This
Even
is just
5
semantics,
years
in
ago,
my
like
opinion.
for RuneScape, it was not sentimental.
You can be sentimental about something 5 years ago. Absolutely. That's middle. That's 8th grade through high school. In college, wistfully remembering what it was like to be a kid. 5 years is plenty of time.
It was just wanting the better game. There was a lot of things I regretted not.
It was not just wanting the better game. It was both nostalgia and wanting the better game. But then the nostalgia helped wanting the better game, and then once they released the better game and they kept it better, everybody just played that one. So
Sure,
not
yeah.
saying during the video. We'll get to it later, but that is one of them, is just saying we wanted the better game.
an old school version of the game is not nostalgia. Am I taking crazy pills?
Yeah,
I feel like I'm crazy.
you are
What?
No,
out of your mind.
no, I feel like I'm crazy, and I'm sure people watching this video feel like they're crazy because I don't mean to startle you, but there's a Jimmy right behind me. If I, there's another one. I feel crazy.
Mind.
There might be some long-term decisions that you made that you're really not enjoying anymore.
Okay,
Suddenly
do I go
you
here?
find yourself pushing all
Also, side note, I had to shorten this like little metaphor. I was trying to find a way to explain this in a way that people who don't play the game would understand like the feelings of missing, what it was like before all this congestion was happening.
So why I wanted to come back to this part was because I remember Jimmy was saying something. It's not even that like big of a point, I guess, as I thought. But I remember he was talking about when Civ was up and like RimWorld, and he was talking about how it's like when you're playing a game and then the developers come out with this update and it completely changes everything about the game to the point where it's like not even the same genre of game. And I feel like that's RuneScape's history, and that's this whole summary of why we're talking about the history of RuneScape and why old school RuneScape became a thing. Because if RuneScape just kept its course being the same genre game, then we wouldn't really be having this debate, I guess, because RuneScape, I feel like if people were, if let's say in an alternate reality, RuneScape never split into two different games, it never was RuneScape 3 and old school RuneScape, would we still be having this conversation? Is kind of what I interpreted from that. And only because we had that split is why we're having the conversation. So if old school RuneScape was just RuneScape 2, the whole way through, and if we were still playing RuneScape 2, if it had the same gameplay and updates as current old school RuneScape, would playing RuneScape 2 to this day still be nostalgic? And I feel like it's the same arguments, whether or not, because if you played the game as a kid, similar to Pokemon, it might encourage you to pick the game back up. So if this is kind of like setting a precedent that any game that's like older than X amount of years is going to have some form of element of nostalgia. You know, if I were to go back and play Pac-Man or Donkey Kong or a Mario game, even that, because I played it as a kid or during like some formative years, there's still, I guess, arguably an element of nostalgia. But is it the only reason I'm still playing the game? Probably not. And I think that's like the main um, point of this video. I feel like, do we need to go through all 2 hours of this? I don't really think so. I think, we've got the meat and potatoes here. That I think Jimmy's main point is that people are weaponizing nostalgia in a bad way, in a bad light. So I think that that's kind of the meat. I think Asmongold is really just like caught up on the semantics of like, if there's any ounce of nostalgia, then he's right, Jimmy's wrong. And I feel like that's just a very surface level interpretation of this. No, I don't know him personally. I'm sure he's a great guy, but I just think that that's my interpretation, is that it feels very like a surface level critique of this point. I think Jimmy's trying to do a deep dive, and he's kind of scraping the tip of the iceberg. And then I think Nine Rain has a lot of really good, personal anecdotes and personal feedback. I think, the main point really is, if you make a good game, nostalgia doesn't really matter. And so I think, in conclusion, because this is already super long, in conclusion, I think that what I said at the beginning kind of holds up, is that nostalgia is a factor, it's a hook, but RuneScape is a good enough game on its own to where it can keep players playing for thousands of hours without nostalgia being the only factor. And I'm sure this is true for every kind of game like World of Warcraft, Pokemon. I think that's just kind of these are the two sides, the maybe three or four sides if you count out everyone contributing. But I think that um yeah, I think nostalgia is a factor ultimately. It's not a main factor. The game is good. And I think that's really what it boils down to. Um, I'm sure there's a lot of other good points in this, but I just don't really feel like doing this for another hour and a half, 2 hours. So yeah, hope that was something that was, again, this isn't really like an attack on anyone. This is just kind of like I thought it would be funny to throw my hat into the ring, kind of as a meme, kind of as a, because these are things that I've been thinking about over the past couple of days, even after watching these videos. So I just, in the whole, context of me getting back into video making, just thought it would be kind of like a funny way to start the day. So yeah, hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. See ya.